Look, this is sudden, but I'm going to live with my lover from now on. We're getting divorced, and I'm leaving the house and car behind. You seemed completely unaware, so I thought I'd let you know. I've been cheating for the past 2 years. It's because you didn't care about me that things turned out this way. If you kneel and apologize, I might forgive you. I cut off his words with a heavy sigh. And to enlighten my oblivious husband, I slowly began to speak. There's no house or car left, you know. My name is Sarah Green, a 50-year-old housewife. My husband, Tyler, and I have been married for 18 years. We have 2 children, both boys. Our eldest son, John, and our younger son, Kent, have both turned out well and are enjoying their youth as students. John is 18 this year, a high school senior working hard on his entrance exams. Kent just started high school this year and joined the light music club where he started playing the guitar. Seeing him practice hard at home every day, I think that people who make an effort are wonderful, regardless of age. It's precisely because the kids are so good that my husband's behavior is particularly intolerable. Lately, his attitude towards me has gotten progressively worse. Hey, the shirt isn't completely dry. What's the deal? Well, you brought in the laundry last night, remember? I ran the washer right away, but it obviously won't be perfectly dry. What use are you? You're a housewife, you should be supporting me to make my work easier. That's how my husband berates me. Why can he only speak that way? Even though he receives cold looks from the kids and me, he doesn't care, eating his toast and drinking his coffee, and then he leaves the dishes and heads to work. He doesn't say goodbye, so lately, neither I nor the kids say have a good day to him. Still, the fact that both kids are able to attend high school is thanks to his income. I work too, but if it weren't for both of us working, the kids wouldn't have been able to choose their paths freely. For that, I am thankful. No, that might be the only thing. That's about how fed up I am with what feels like my husband's emotional abuse, and honestly, my love for him has completely cooled. My daily joy and happiness come from communicating with my sons. John, who studies hard every day, eats the snacks I bring him at night with delight. Kent is completely absorbed in music, teaching me about the bands he's into at the moment. When we have time, we watch music shows together, and we watch music videos from Kent's favorite bands. The guitar cutting here is seriously cool. He says excitedly while using technical terms to explain the best parts of the songs, and it makes me smile. Both John and Kent are my precious sons. They've both grown up before I knew it, already taller than me. But it was quite a struggle to raise them to this point. That's because, after returning from maternity leave with Kent, I was working hard, and amidst the busyness, I had to manage both household chores and childcare. If my mother hadn't temporarily moved in to help with the kids and the house when they were little, I would have reached my breaking point long ago. Yet, at that time, my husband was harsh. You're neglecting your duties as a mother, aren't you? Normally, people raise their kids themselves. Aren't you ashamed to have your mom do it? My mom raised me and my brother all by herself. You're just being lazy. That's how my husband attacked me. Since his mother was a stay-at-home mom, I assumed she had more time and flexibility for childcare. But I was working full-time, and on top of that, I was preparing lunches for him and the kids. I had my mother come during the day to help with cleaning and picking up the kids from daycare. So it wasn't like I left everything to my mother. Of course, I also cooked dinner every night and did other household chores. Generally, even on his days off, he would just lie on the sofa, not taking care of the kids or doing any housework, and I remember being very angry about it at the time. I was also irritated with my husband, and at that time, I was too busy to take his lectures seriously. Probably, my attitude at that time was also something he didn't like. Back when Kent was still in elementary school, we went to his company's barbecue, and there, his colleague said to him, "Your wife works quite hard, doesn't she?" Normally, that would be impossible. But my husband replied with a laugh, No, she neglects the housework and childcare because she's always working. I wish she would take care of home more." Hearing this, a female colleague nearby responded. "What are you talking about, Sarah? She has been looking after the kids the whole time during the barbecue. Meanwhile, you've been drinking and enjoying yourself. Maybe you should help out a bit? Don't be surprised if you get divorced." It was said jokingly, but my husband showed no signs of remorse, and ultimately, he remained the troublesome husband who never did anything. One day, during work, I received a call from my son's school saying he had a high fever. Yes, I understand. I'll come pick him up. However, I was caught up in an important meeting and couldn't leave. Remembering that my husband, Tyler, was off today, I called him. I'm busy right now." "Why?" "It's your day off. Please, can you go pick him up?" I pleaded desperately, but Tyler grudgingly refused. "That's a mother's job. If I go, it'll look weird, and you should be the one to go." Tyler was busy with work, he said, and hung up the phone. Though it was his day off, I was stunned, holding the phone, but then I remembered that John's school ended in the morning and contacted him. He said he could go pick up his brother right away, which relieved me. I didn't want to trouble the kids, but with Tyler acting like that, I had no choice. Later, I hurried to finish my work, explained the situation to my boss, and went home. The boys greeted me, and John had been taking care of his brother. "John, thank you so much. You really helped me." Apparently, Tyler hadn't helped at all with taking care of our son, which was shocking to see such an indifferent father. A few days later, my son's cold was better, and life returned to normal, but the boys had grown cold towards Tyler. They said, "Dad doesn't care about us," and started avoiding him. Tyler seemed completely oblivious. That's how the distance between Tyler and the children grew. While I was furious with his attitude, I thought I couldn't continue like this. No matter what I said, Tyler didn't think he was in the wrong. "I'm working and providing for you all. Don't let the kids complain." "No, but you need to be more involved with the kids. That's your job as their mother. It's always been that way, but you always push everything onto me. You're always relying on someone else." "What is that? Does he have any idea how hard I'm trying?" After that, I stopped talking to Tyler. Before I knew it, time had flown by, and both sons had become high school students. I'm grateful that they are growing up well, using their father as a bad example. But amidst this, something suspicious about Tyler arose. One day, he said he was going on a business trip overseas. The trip was supposed to last about half a month. "What should I buy? I won't be buying any souvenirs for you guys." My husband was completely in a vacation mood about a work trip overseas, and I was just amazed. Then he said he would be home late because of overseas trip meetings. But it's unlikely that he has meetings every day, yet he comes home late almost every night. It's really concerning. The times when Tyler comes home, the family is usually asleep, but he doesn't bother to close the door quietly. Lately, I've been waking up to the sound of my husband coming home, and for some reason, he gets grumpy if I'm asleep before him. "When I come home tired from work, and you're already sleeping, what a thing to do," he'd say, throwing some senseless sarcastic remarks. I'm busy with work too, so it should be fine if I sleep first. That's what I think, but if I actually speak up, the sarcasm comes back double, so I just ignore it. Then, one night, he wasn't going to be home until past 11 p.m., so I decided to go to bed first. Just as I was dozing off, suddenly, he violently shook me, tearing off the duvet. "Hey, wake up. Your husband's home," he said, his face flushed with drink, forcibly waking me. The bedroom reeked of alcohol, making me cover my mouth. "Are you a bit drunk? Cut it out. I have to get up early for work tomorrow." I snapped back, and although my husband was complaining about something, I couldn't understand him because he was slurring his words. Then he just fell face down on the bed and went to sleep. The next morning, he seemed to remember the night before. He glanced at the breakfast on the table and snarled, "I don't need breakfast," and left for work quickly. It was probably a dig at me for talking back the day before. Our sons, witnessing this, showed expressions of dismay. "What's that, acting like a kid? Mom, can we eat this?" "Yes, you can." The boys cleaned up the leftover breakfast, thanked me with a smile, and energetically headed to school. And the night before my husband's business trip abroad. All set now, he sang a little tune while getting ready. The sons watched him with cold eyes. They seemed completely fed up with their father's selfish behavior recently. Even though their father was in the living room, they didn't talk to him. But, unaware that his sons were giving him the cold shoulder, he cheerfully talked to them. "I'm going on a business trip abroad, so don't expect any souvenirs." John calmly replied, "That's okay, we don't need anything." My husband looked a bit annoyed. Kent didn't even look his way. For heaven's sake. Saying such lifeless things. What if I don't come back from abroad? Don't you want your father to return? His words seemed to test the children's affection, making me frown. Such testing behavior should be for kids, not for an adult towards his own children. Maybe my son was fed up with his father too. John sighed deeply and turned his face away. Kent gave his father a cold glance and said, "Hey, bro. There's something I need help with for school." "Sure, let's go to my room." Ignoring their father, the sons left. My husband watched them go with a stunned look. "What's with that attitude?" I was about to say it's your fault, but he glared at me, and I choked on my words. Then he said something nonsensical. "This is your fault. You've taught them to defy me. Make sure you re-educate them by the time I get back from my business trip." With that said, my husband stomped off with heavy footsteps, leaving the living room. About 2 weeks after my husband left for his overseas business trip, our family was enjoying a very peaceful time. However, one afternoon, while I was at work, my husband suddenly called. "Hello, hello? Hey, are you keeping well?" His voice on the other end sounded slightly slurred and too cheerful, indicating he was probably drunk. "What do you want?" "I'm at work." I restrained a sigh and scolded him, but far from getting upset, he became more excited and blurted out something outrageous. "Listen, I'm going to live with my mistress from now on. We're getting divorced, and you can keep the house and the car. It seems you didn't realize it, but I've been cheating on you for the past 2 years," he said. According to him, this business trip wasn't for work but a vacation with his mistress. They were currently enjoying themselves in Hawaii, and her name is Hillary. Hillary is very beautiful, unlike you, she hasn't let herself go, she's kind and considerate, a really nice girl, he boasted unasked. "You never valued me, that's why this happened. If you apologize on your knees, I might forgive you," he added. He seemed quite drunk but was serious about his words. Drunk, he confessed his infidelity, thinking that I would be shocked and listen to him. But that was not going to happen, and taking my silence for compliance, he continued to berate me. I cut him off with a heavy sigh. Then, to enlighten my oblivious husband, I slowly began to speak. "The house and the car are already gone, you know." "Huh?" He sounded deflated. I continued, unperturbed. "Why don't you come back home and see for yourself?" "Now, I've got to go, I'm cutting off the call." Wait a minute." He was saying something, but I ruthlessly pressed the end call button. The next day, after work, as I was relaxing at home, my husband called again. "Hello, hello? Hey! There's a for sale sign on my house, and the car's gone too, what's going on? What have you done?" He ranted. I answered, exasperated. "What have I done? I sold my own house. The car is in my name, so it's mine. I just took it to my new place." "What? My house? What are you talking about? That's my house. Why would you sell it without asking?" He yelled. "You didn't realize?" I never knew my husband could be such an idiot, I muttered to myself. To help him understand the reality, I decided to explain everything from scratch. Actually, the house we had been living in was mine. Before we built the house, we planned to take out a joint loan, but during the credit check, it came to light that my husband had a substantial amount of debt. I'm sorry for hiding it. This loan won't get approved with this, I said, exasperated, and he repeatedly bowed his head in apology. In the end, we bought the house with a loan in my name only, which meant the house and the land were registered in my name. This was before Kent was born. Initially, my husband did pay part of the mortgage, but gradually, he started falling behind, and eventually, he stopped paying altogether. By the time Kent was born, I was the only one paying the mortgage, and after returning from maternity leave, I had to work full-time. I asked my husband numerous times to contribute financially, but ultimately, he stopped paying altogether. He did contribute to the household, but it was only enough to help with the kids' school expenses. Have you forgotten something that important? You're lying. You're trying to deceive me. Then how could I have sold the house and land if it was in your name? That wouldn't be possible. It's because you did it on your own. A person who isn't the owner can't just sell a house or land, think about it. When I said that, my husband fell silent for a while. It seems he's beginning to understand the reality in front of him. By the way, the car my husband was fussing about earlier is also in my name and was paid for by me. After selling his car to pay off his debts, he's been using mine. While I was using the car, he would ride a bicycle, grumbling, "Why do I have to ride a bike?" If he's that unhappy, he should just buy his own car with his own money. Maybe he mistook my car for his as well. He always looked down on our family as if we were beneath him, living with the notion that everything belonging to the family was his. Thinking about how I've lived with such a selfish and distorted thinker for so long, I'm a bit dismayed at myself. While I was thinking this, he suddenly realized something and raised his voice. "Wait, why did you sell the house while I was abroad?" "Oh, that. I knew you were cheating 2 years ago. Since then, I've been preparing for a divorce. I sold the house because if I continued living there after the divorce, I thought you would persistently cling to us. I was preparing to protect the lives of the children and myself. 2 years ago, one night when my husband came home drunk, he said to me, relaxing in bed, 'Thanks, Hillary.' That night, he had a full smile, looking genuinely happy. I wonder how many years it's been since he last showed such a face in front of me." After calling out another woman's name, my husband just fell into a deep sleep. Normally, one might panic at the possibility of their spouse cheating, but I didn't pursue it. By then, I no longer felt any love for my husband, and honestly, I didn't care if he was cheating. Plus, without proof, confronting him would only lead to him lashing out, and I wanted to avoid the hassle. However, my husband continued to slip up on his own. One time, Kent saw a message from his mistress, Hillary, on his smartphone, which he had left in the living room. Another time, John spotted my husband arm in arm with a woman while coming home late from tutoring. The boys reported these incidents of their fathers cheating to me. Hearing my sons had witnessed their father cheating, I was initially quite shaken. It must have been shocking for the kids to see their father being unfaithful. However, surprisingly, the boys said, "Well, it's just like Dad to do something like this." Honestly, we're not shocked at all. "When are you getting a divorce?" Their casual attitude caught me off guard. Afterward, amidst a busy work schedule, I steadily gathered evidence of my husband's infidelity. It took 2 years from the discovery of the affair due to my busy life over these years. My husband was quite careless, but for some reason, he believed he had successfully concealed his affairs. When I told my husband that the children already knew about his infidelity, he seemed quite shaken over the phone. "No way, how did it get out?" "No, you were careless, and I didn't even need to hire a detective to gather all the evidence. Plus, I sold the house while you were on your trip abroad as a little payback for all the trouble you've caused." As I gathered enough evidence and was thinking about when to initiate the divorce, he brought up a business trip overseas. Grinning smugly, he talked about the trip, which I realized was not for work but a romantic getaway with Hillary. I saw this as the perfect opportunity, proceeded with the sale arrangements I had started earlier, and that brings us to now. Currently, we are living in a temporary apartment. It's located far from our previous home, and it would be difficult for him to find us. Backed into a corner, my husband desperately said, "Where are you now?" "I'm coming over." He still doesn't grasp the situation. We no longer consider him part of the family, yet he seems to think we can still live together. There's no way I'm telling you. After all, we are already divorced. I could hear him gulp over the phone. Yes, my husband and I are already divorced. Previously, we had a huge argument. Enough with your job already. Aren't you a mother? You should take care of the home. I was incredibly busy at that time, with overtime every day. The kids were helping out with chores, aware of my workload, but my husband did nothing as usual. Instead, he seemed upset that I was busier than him and unleashed his unreasonable anger on me. Give me a break. I managed to do the housework despite my busy schedule. You can't even take out the trash properly, so don't lecture me. Exhausted, I snapped back harshly. Even so, my words were nothing compared to the harsh things he had said in the past. However, my husband exploded after feeling cornered and slammed a filled-out divorce form in front of me. How dare you talk back to your husband like that? Apologize now, or it's divorce. His face turned red with anger as he puffed and panted. Seeing my husband like that, I realized that any further discussion would be a waste of time. So, reluctantly, I apologized, thinking this might be useful someday. I carefully kept the filled-out divorce form. Then, while my husband was on his trip abroad, I signed and submitted the divorce form. It was accepted, and I was finally able to dissolve our marriage. Wait a minute. I didn't want to divorce you. After cheating on me, you have the nerve to say such selfish things. I've been fully intent on divorcing you for the past 2 years. My husband pleaded with me in a trembling voice, but I coldly rejected him. Oh, I don't intend to settle just for the divorce. I'll be claiming damages from both you and Hillary. What? Thanks to my diligent gathering of evidence over the past 2 years, I had already pinpointed Hillary's address. It seems she lives with her brother and his wife in their family home. She doesn't do much housework, so she's not well liked by her family, yet she casually says she'll move out once she gets married. I collected this information from Hillary's social media. She has a habit of posting everything that happens around her on social media. This made collecting evidence of the affair much easier, but I'll keep that to myself. Since she hardly does any housework, I doubt she checks the mailbox. Today, the lawyer I hired should be delivering a notice of proof to her. Once it arrives, her family will likely find out about the affair. I have already handed over the evidence I collected to my lawyer to file for damages. He's very competent and has been swiftly handling all the necessary procedures. He has assured me that the evidence I gathered is sufficient to file for damages. For me, it's just procedure, but for my husband, it appears to be the worst news. Hey, do you realize what you're doing, getting a lawyer and filing for damages? What's going to happen is simple. I'll receive damages from you and Hillary. It's not a problem for me. I'm the one in trouble. If Hillary's family finds out, they'll blame me too. To that, I responded calmly despite his loud voice. So what? I'm already divorced from you, and it doesn't involve the kids or affect me at all. Oh, and speaking of the kids, I'll obviously be getting custody. You've hardly been involved in raising them, so I can't trust you with the kids. My husband, hearing my words, let out an indistinct cry. Let me talk to the kids. What? They're there, right? Let me talk to them. I glanced to the side. The temporary apartment is a bit cramped for the 3 of us, and the boys could easily hear me arguing with my husband on the phone. At John's request, I had put the call on speaker. That means, all this while, the boys had been listening to the conversation. John listened expressionlessly to his father's words, and Kent was visibly frowning. As I hesitated whether to let them talk directly, John and Kent looked at me and nodded deeply. Hello, Dad. John, is that you? I'm glad you're safe. His tone, as if I had somehow endangered the boys, instantly irritated me. John felt the same and angrily retorted to his father. Safe? What do you mean? Mom hasn't done anything terrible to us. In fact, we're incredibly happy now that she's divorced you. And by the way, you're the perpetrator here, Dad, not us. We're the victims, remember that. John's uncompromising words left his father speechless. Look, Dad. I bet you enjoyed your trip abroad with your mistress. You said you wanted to talk to us, but what about? Were you going to say something like you need a father or it'll be lonely without Dad? Kent took over the call and spoke with a voice full of disgust. You know, we're not in any trouble without you. Actually, it's a relief. The thought of not having to live with you anymore makes us look forward to the future. So, that's how it is. I feel the same as Kent. Living with you, Dad, makes it hard to concentrate on studying for my exams. We don't need you in our family. Faced with their outright rejection, their father finally broke down crying. I'm not one to kick someone when they're down, but I had to say my farewell properly. By the way, I've already told your parents about all of this. Your dad and mom are thoroughly disgusted with you. They said they won't help you out no matter how much you struggle. My husband sobbed louder. The cost of his infidelity was high. Well, goodbye. From now on, we'll communicate through the lawyer, so this is the last time I'll speak to you directly. Enjoy your life with your mistress. My husband cried out in despair on the other end of the phone. I pressed the end call button without further concern. Afterward, through my lawyer, I demanded compensation from both of them. My husband, who had been spending almost all his daily earnings aside from what he gave me for household expenses, apparently had no savings and had to borrow money to pay the damages. He begged his parents for help, but they didn't provide a single cent. Moreover, my husband had used up all his paid leave for dates with Hillary on her days off, and when that wasn't enough, he started taking unapproved absences. This affected his performance reviews significantly, leading to delays in his potential promotions. Despite having chosen to have an affair, my husband was quite shocked to be divorced by me. His work suffered, and it seemed he might even face demotion soon. If the shock was that severe, he shouldn't have cheated in the first place. Now, he's struggling just to make ends meet because of his debts. These stories all came from his parents, who showed no sympathy for their own son. Hillary was also caught cheating by her family and kicked out of her home. Her family seems to be reasonable people, as they sent an apology letter to me through the lawyer. According to the letter, her family had resolutely kicked Hillary out of their house. Even after using up all her savings, Hillary had to borrow money to settle the compensation claim from me. However, the lenders were quite unscrupulous, and she could barely cover the interest payments. She is currently juggling multiple jobs to pay off her debts, but it's hard to imagine such a lifestyle lasting long. While it's none of my business what becomes of her, it seems. Hillary had been trying to seduce my husband for his money. But the only reason my husband had money to spend was that I had been paying all the house loans. Now, he's not in a position to have such financial leeway. Hillary's plan was doomed from the start. I thought they would marry once we were divorced, but surprisingly, that did not happen. Hillary, furious that her situation was due to my husband's actions, broke up with him. In the end, my husband lost his family, mistress, money, house, car, everything. He now lives alone in a dilapidated apartment that seems on the verge of collapse. Meanwhile, I am living peaceful days with my two sons. Selling the house and car brought in a considerable sum of money, so I decided to buy a used single-family home. It's smaller than our previous house, but the former residents took great care of it, and it's surprisingly pristine. My sons also seem to like our new home and live happily every day. I plan to continue working hard for my precious sons and to maintain our happy, close-knit family life for as long as possible. Mary? A high-pitched voice reached my ears. No way. Oh, that's it. Long time no see, Mary. A man and a woman, waving their hands as they approached us while we were shopping. It was my sister Maya and my former fiancé Mike.
Maya, why are you here?
Oh, did I not tell you? This guy, he got transferred from over there. Living in a fancy condo nearby. Compared to you, you look kinda poor. While saying this, Maya looked my husband Neil up and down. From Maya's perspective, Neil, in his work clothes, might indeed seem that way. However, speaking of that condo, are you talking about that one in the mall and in front of the station? Oh, that is mine, actually. Nonchalantly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world, Neil said.
What did you just say?
Well, if you're talking about a condo around here, that's the only one, right? Then it's mine.
What do you mean?
Exactly as I said. There was a plan to build on one of the lands we've owned for a long time, and it sold beyond our expectations. Thanks to that, the land value went up and the taxes are a nightmare. After saying this, Neil invited the two to our farm. As soon as we got in the car, he quickly made a phone call home.
Hello, Mom?
It's me. Yeah, I've finally caught a big one, so it's time to execute the plan. Apparently, something was happening without my knowledge. My name is Mary. I'm a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids, married to Neil, who is 4 years my senior. Currently, I'm happily living with my family on a farm. However, my life before marrying my current husband was always about losing something. I was born in the middle of 3 sisters. My sister Maya has been cute since she was little, skilled with her hands, and quick-witted, the pride of our parents. Without much effort, she always had good grades and was the star in elementary and middle school. On the other hand, I had a plain face, very unlike Maya. And my grades were average. My mom always used to tell me, "You're so plain and unremarkable, there's no joy in dressing you up." She would then proceed to unconditionally buy new clothes for Maya alone, as much as she requested. Since I wasn't developing as well, I was always given Maya's hand-me-downs. I often heard from my classmates how flashy or ill-fitting my clothes were. I was frequently asked, "Why are you wearing something that doesn't suit you?" But I disliked saying it was all I had. Probably, my friends were told something by their parents because eventually they stopped commenting. As for studies, my dad often sighed and said to me, "Why don't you try to follow in your sister's footsteps a bit more with your studies?" Despite his words, from around upper elementary school, I wasn't just doing my homework but also thoroughly preparing and reviewing lessons. I was well aware of my limitations, which is why I tried to do what I could properly. Yet, that didn't mean I could get good grades right away. I grew up sighing a lot, and then it was time to think about further education. "You're only going up to high school," my dad declared flatly.
Why?
"Because Maya wants to go to a university in New York. You don't have great grades anyway, so it should be fine." The age difference between us was a problem. The expenses for both of us would come almost the same time. As a result, Maya went to the private school she wanted, and I ended up in public school all the way. Later, Maya wanted to go to a private university in downtown New York. That's a plane ride away. Not to mention the difference in living costs. Living alone in such a place. It meant that my parents had already decided to cut down on expenses for me. It might have even meant they wanted me to start working soon and contribute to the household. And my youngest sister, for years younger than me, Sally, often silently watched all this happen. Amidst a life filled with sighs, without much I wanted to do, I ended up working at a local agricultural cooperative right after high school graduation. I was basically an office worker. Moreover, it was a rural area, far from any hint of chic. Some parts still carried the vibe of the old era, while oddly enough, others were pretty high-tech. Dealing with people there was monotonous, but it suited me just fine. Maya would probably rather die than live there. Before I knew it, 7 years had flown by, and at the young age of 25, I was already considered a veteran in this workplace where people tended to marry young. That's when I unexpectedly met a man. At a mixer I was invited to by a younger coworker. I met Mike, a salesperson from a client company. We surprisingly hit it off and started dating soon after. Our relationship progressed unbelievably well, and he proposed in less than a year. We were planning to get married 6 months later. But as our wedding plans were advancing, Maya, who was supposed to be working for a company in the city after graduating from college, quit her job and came back home.
I just couldn't stand that company anymore.
Well, if you say so, it must be true. You must be tired, just take it easy for a while. And so, day after day, my parents gave Maya money to lounge around and took her out, spending their days in what seemed like pure enjoyment. Then, one day, it happened.
What, you're getting married?
Yes, that's right.
I'll have to see what kind of guy he is for myself.
With that, Maya smirked. You don't need to do that.
Huh?
You're saying you won't listen to your sister? Saying that, she grabbed my hair and pulled my cheek hard. In the end, Maya came to the wedding venue for discussions. There were many things to decide, but Mike seemed distracted that day. I had a bad feeling, and a few days later, Maya bluntly told me,
Mike is going to be mine. But the wedding is already set, and the venue.
As I protested, my parents sided with Maya.
Oh, it just has to be Maya instead of you. Exactly, it doesn't change anything between the families, and we haven't sent out the invitations yet.
I couldn't grasp what they were saying. Were they planning to use the wedding, for which I also paid half, for Maya and Mike instead? I confronted Mike. With unusual force and intensity. I'm sorry. But I have to take responsibility. It seemed Maya had made advances and he couldn't refuse. I was shocked to learn he was that kind of person, but I was even more unable to forgive Maya. Yet, being unable to forgive didn't mean I could do anything about it at the time. Above all, my parents were blatantly favoring Maya. I was out of options.
Then you might as well throw it all away,
said my sister, who had recently graduated from a local college.
Mary, you don't need to stay here forever. Staying here, you'll just keep having things taken from you.
Those words changed something in me. Right, there's no reason I have to stay here.
Don't worry about me. I'm managing better than you think,
she said, giving me a push. I immediately told my boss about the sudden cancellation of my wedding and discussed resigning. My boss was shocked and listened to the whole story up to that day. Then, instead of resigning, he suggested a transfer. My diligent work and ability to handle various local farmers too well to let go. I gratefully accepted the offer and moved out with just my belongings before their wedding. Living alone and starting at a new workplace, I finally felt like I could breathe freely away from that family. The city I moved to was slightly smaller than my hometown but was still a significant urban area here. Perhaps because I felt more at ease, I started socializing more with colleagues. And then, there was another mixer, but I was done with marriage. However, I went just to keep up appearances. This time, they specifically asked for you, a colleague said. The attendees were heirs to neighboring farms. The situation for farmers' wives seemed to be quite strict. That's where I met Neil, my current husband. I knew him only as a business contact. Encouraged by a colleague, I decided to date him, and Neil turned out to be a fun and generous person. And I visited his family's home several times.
Wow, this is amazing.
Well, it's pretty normal around here. They owned a vast land, half for livestock and half for crops. The family was large and very generous. They always served fresh and delicious food and were constantly smiling. They subtly asked why I always seemed bewildered by their close-knit family.
I'm just surprised to see a family that gets along so well together.
When I shared my past experiences with my parents and Maya as calmly as possible, they were outraged. Then,
what's with them? The sister is one thing, but the guy and the parents too?
Leaving them was the right choice.
Exactly, so come stay with us.
I had always felt guilty about being dumped by a man. But this generous family was genuinely angry at the unfairness of my parents, Maya, and Mike. I immediately wondered if the invitation to come to our place was really all right.
And somehow, I found myself agreeing without hesitation. Without even having time to wonder if it's okay to be a farmer's wife. When I called my parents to tell them about the marriage. Marrying into a farm? I'm too ashamed to even show my face. They refused to attend the ceremony out of embarrassment. Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law snatched the phone from me and declared, "We don't need anything to do with that family. Mary is going to be our daughter-in-law," with refreshing vigor.
What's with those people? Really, Mary, you don't have to do anything with them anymore. I've been sending them money, but I wonder if they'll say something if I stop. You were doing that?
My in-laws were a mix of astonishment and anger, nodding in agreement as if they had made a decision. My sister contacted me to let me know when the wedding was set. In the end, she was the only one from my family who attended. When she got married, I made sure to avoid my parents and went to celebrate her wedding. By the way, I continued working at the cooperative for a while after getting married. Taking up farming work right away was out of the question, Neil and my in-laws told me.
You don't have the same physical strength as us. It's better if you do work that suits you.
My presence at the cooperative had apparently made the work flow smoother. Still, that phase of my life came to an end rather quickly. I had one child. And then a year later, another one. With the pace at which we were having children, I left my job to focus on raising the kids, household chores, and helping with the finances. Farm life means early mornings and late nights, but having someone always around made it much easier than the solo parenting you often hear about in the city. And the food, always delicious. We cooked in large quantities, and everything from the vegetables to the milk was incredibly tasty. The kids ate well and played hard, growing up freely alongside their cousins from Neil's younger brother's family. Neil was something of a leader among the young people in the area, so I started attending their gatherings too. Without being compared to anyone and out of my parents' sight, I finally felt truly happy. Then one day, encouraged by my in-laws, Neil and I went shopping at the mall, just the two of us for the first time in a while.
Really, is that okay?
We have some things we want you to pick up, they said, probably knowing we rarely got time alone together. Just experiencing this family's kindness was a relief in itself. We leisurely drove to the mall, reaching an area that could be considered downtown. As we filled 2 carts with requested items and more, strolling through the spacious mall and chatting.
Mary?
A high voice reached my ears. No way.
Oh, yes. Long time no see, Mary.
A man and a woman, waving as they approached us.
Maya.
I murmured softly, gripping the cart's handle tightly.
Hey, long time no see.
Beside me was Mike, though he seemed to have aged quite a bit.
Why are you here?
Oh, didn't I tell you?
This guy got transferred here. Living in a fancy condo nearby.
Compared to you, you look kinda poor. While saying this, Maya looked Neil over from head to toe. Indeed, from Maya's perspective, Neil in his work clothes might seem that way. And here I am, just in my everyday clothes. But then,
speaking of condo, are you talking about that one between this mall and the station?
Neil suddenly spoke up. Yes, that one.
It's very popular with people from out of town now, and we had to wait to get a place there. Of course, it's none of your concern, being from a farm out in the sticks. Oh, that condo is actually mine.
Neil said nonchalantly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world.
What did you just say? Well, if you're talking about a condo around here, that's the only one, right? Then it's mine. What do you mean?
Exactly as I said.
There was a plan for one of the lands we've owned for a long time, and when we built it, it sold beyond our expectations. Thanks to that, the land value shot up, and the taxes are a nightmare.
Taxes. I remember encountering some unusually high property taxes while helping with the accounting. I had wondered why, given that the taxes around our area aren't usually that significant.
Is that so?
Yes, it is. Would you like to come over to our place? I turned to Neil, surprised. Are you sure? Then Maya's demeanor changed.
Hey, it's rude to barge in like that, isn't it? It's rude not to accept their invitation after they've asked us so nicely.
Shopping was abruptly paused, and we decided to drive to each other's places. Back at the car, Neil called home as soon as he sat in the driver's seat.
Hey, Mom?
It's me.
Yeah, we finally caught a big one, so it's time to execute the plan.
What was he talking about? After saying just that, Neil ended the call.
A plan?
Yeah.
Well, we've had our own thoughts about things.
I had no idea you owned a condo.
Well, it's sort of like insurance, you know?
Neil explained to me.
Even places like ours can have a hard time with farming, depending on nature. And our family happened to own that land in the area for generations.
So you built a condo there?
Well, kind of half and half. Not all of it. For people coming from outside, the view is incredibly appealing.
That much was true. Even if the view was just fields and mountains, their vastness made each season a sight to behold.
For those with money from outside, it must be nice.
Would you want to live there? I immediately shook my head.
I like our current home best. Everyone's here.
Me too. With that, we hurried back home. During the drive, Neil shared a surprising plan with me.
Can we really do that? You know about our family's unity, right? And we're good at following through with plans.
That was true. But still. Watching Maya's car follow us in the rearview mirror, I wondered if it would really work. When we arrived home, my in-laws greeted us with, "Oh, welcome," in their usual, no, even warmer smiles for the sister and her husband.
Is it okay to take time off now?
At this hour, there should still be work in the fields and with the cows.
It's fine. We knew we had important guests coming.
Maya, the guest in question, looked around the house as soon as she entered. Probably surprised by its size. It is indeed spacious. There are many people living here. And multiple households.
Well, I've only met your sister before. I had no idea you had such a beautiful sister.
My father-in-law said with a hearty laugh. While that was happening, I was in the kitchen preparing something to serve our guests.
It's better if Mary doesn't come out there.
Huh?
Just watch from here for a while,
she suggested, pointing to a chair in the kitchen. Wondering what she meant, I sat as told and watched the living room scene. At the low table, my father-in-law and Neil were seated, offering the visiting couple, "We don't have much," sweet potatoes and potato cakes that had been prepared in advance. From the spot my mother-in-law showed me, I could see everything clearly. Yet I was out of sight from them. Opening a beer, my father-in-law mentioned, "So I hear you're living in our apartment." Yes. Oh, speaking of the apartment. He signaled Neil with a look. Just a moment. Neil said, retrieving an envelope from the living room cabinet.
There's something we need to show you, or rather, something for you to see. What would that be?
Mike tilted his head, puzzled. This is. Neil handed him a large document envelope, from which Mike started to pull out papers but stopped. Instead, he pulled out a bunch of photos mounted on album pages.
This is.
Mike's face tensed up.
Yeah, we got a call from the building manager saying the security cameras caught some suspicious people lately. When we got the data, it looked familiar, so we did a little digging.
Mike silently flipped through the album pages, eventually dropping them in shock.
What the hell? Maya, who is this?
In a groaning voice, Mike turned to Maya, seeking answers. As I wondered what was going on, my mother-in-law silently tapped my shoulder and handed me the stack of photos.
What?
I almost shouted out loud and instinctively covered my mouth with my hand. What I saw were photos of Maya inviting an unknown man into her room, the two of them visible through a window, entering a hotel in broad daylight and later coming out separately, among other things.
How do you have these?
It's a secret, my mother-in-law said, clearly amused. Then, looking back into the living room, I saw Mike glaring at Maya with an incredulous look.
Have you been saying we don't need kids yet because you wouldn't be able to do this kind of thing? That's not me, it's a lie. Well, we've confirmed with the building manager that you said you had business with your sister-in-law.
Neil pressed on.
Then, what about these other photos?
Well, that's the thing. Cheating is just not right. My father-in-law said casually.
After taking your sister's man, do you still want other men?
How old are you, anyway? Let's see.
She's 3 years older,
Mary mentioned.
Mary set this up.
That's not the point. Neil said, as Mike tried to return the envelope.
Oh, you can keep that. There might be some documents in there you'll need. What?
Mike looked inside again and pulled out a large piece of paper.
Indeed, this might be necessary. Wait, a divorce paper? Just like that? What?
In a panic, Maya faced Mike, who began speaking in a low, steady voice.
You told me to take responsibility, remember? You said you missed your period. I thought I had gotten you pregnant, so I decided to marry you. But what now? What do you mean? It seems I had relations with you in a drunken stupor. I don't remember it, but there was evidence. So, considering what followed, I thought I should take responsibility. But you weren't pregnant, and ever since then, you keep saying you don't want kids now. How old are we again? Round it up, we're almost 40, right? I'm only 35. Don't say such awful things. I believed you when you said you wanted to raise just one child carefully. That's why I worked hard, improved my sales performance, got transferred, and even got that apartment. You nagged me until we got a spot and took out a loan to buy it. Yet, you always complain about it being on a low floor, always, always, always.
I hadn't known she had been saying that.
I'm tired of it all.
Neil said, and swiftly pulling out a pen, Mike began to fill out the divorce papers.
Wait, what are you doing? Remember the wedding? Your parents did whatever they wanted, making us look like a family of fools. No one came, not even my parents.
I hadn't known that happened.
To this day, my dad and mom haven't forgiven me. You were happy there was no trouble with your in-laws. Oh, so you've been such an unfilial child. That must have been tough. I was even told not to come to my brother's wedding.
Mike said this with a contorted face. Looking older perhaps due to the stress.
I've had enough of this situation. Right, Maya? You're tired of me too, aren't you, given the circumstances? That's not true. I can't live without you. Because you haven't worked since we got married. But I don't care anymore.
He signed on the divorce papers and thrust them in front of Maya.
Here. I don't want to.
If you don't want to, that's fine.
I'm going home. By the way, this envelope is from a detective agency, right?
Yes.
We thoroughly investigated the safety of the apartment we own. Solid evidence.
Thank you, Mike said, nodding slightly.
Let me know the costs later. I'll pay in full. And Maya, I'll be seeking alimony from you. I don't have that kind of money.
Faced with the blunt reality of financial demands, Maya was thrown into disarray.
You could always go back to your hometown and easily make money off men, right? I'm busy from now on, so I'm heading back. Going back? What am I supposed to do? Apologize and ask your sister for help.
With that, Mike picked up the envelope and stood up to leave. He was glancing at me briefly.
Wait a minute.
Maya scrambled to her feet and tried to follow Mike out. But she couldn't keep up with Mike, who was seriously picking up the pace. We quietly followed them outside.
Wait! Don't leave me behind!
Perhaps due to a lack of exercise or her shoes, Maya tripped and fell. Somehow, she managed to get up and tried to continue the chase.
Ouch! Huh? Where's my car?
It was then Mike raised his voice. Then.
Oh, if you're looking for that car, it was in the way of the entrance, so I had it moved.
A carefree voice called out from a distance, accompanied by the sound of machinery. It was Neil's brother on a tractor.
Hey! Where is it now?
over there." He pointed in a direction a few hundred meters away where their car was parked. Mike headed towards it with long strides, visibly frustrated. Maya breathlessly tried to keep up. Then, it happened. Our dogs ran towards Maya.
"What's with these dogs?"
"Sorry, they're just really friendly towards new guests." Neil casually came outside and raised his voice. "If you try to run away awkwardly, they'll just chase you more." But it seems like Maya didn't hear Neil's warning.
"No, stop, please."
I don't think Maya necessarily disliked dogs. But she might not have been immune to dogs that run around outside. She hated getting dirty. And our dogs, always running around the farm, are full of energy.
"Hey you! Mike! Help me!"
Mike glanced back briefly but then turned and continued walking briskly towards his car. The dogs, barking joyfully, kept approaching Maya. Well, that figures. Even dogs approaching happily can seem like monsters to those who are not fond of them. And I, watching all this from a distance.
"No! Stop!"
As Maya tripped over her feet trying to change direction and move forward. She fell hard and screamed from the bottom of her heart.
"What is this? Ugh, it smells."
She had landed in a pile of fluffy cow manure compost. Still warm from the fermentation process. "Oh, are you all right?" came the leisurely voice of Neil's brother. As two dogs climbed on top of the fallen Maya, licking her face. But Maya seemed too dazed to react. Understandably so. Dressed up for going out, she had plunged headfirst into the compost, covering herself from head to toe. It's hard to find a spot on her not smeared with manure. The dogs, undeterred, continued to play and rub against Maya, barking and woofing.
"Darn it! No choice then."
Seeing Maya in a daze, Mike, though frustrated, managed to get the car closer.
"Let's go. Don't cause any more trouble for this household."
Even Mike couldn't just watch silently Maya's miserable state. He grabbed a part of Maya's clothing that wasn't dirty and threw her into the back seat of the car.
"Well, yeah, I wouldn't want you sitting next to me. But it'll be trouble later on."
Watching from a distance, we half sympathized with them as Mike nodded to us before driving away. That evening, we received a call from the apartment's building manager.
"That smell was terrible."
"That's unfortunate. Please make sure to charge for the full house cleaning."
"Of course. Even though this area is known for livestock farming, this place near the station is populated by people not accustomed to it. The residents were in an uproar today. It wasn't just the entrance and hallways, the parking lot was also affected by the smell."
Listening on speaker mode, I caught Neil's smirk and felt a mix of amusement and relief. Honestly, living in this environment, I'd forgotten that appearing covered in compost in the middle of the city would indeed be a terrible sight. Especially for Maya, who prides herself on her appearance.
"Especially the complaints from the upper floors are severe. We'll address it as quickly as possible."
Right.
"Oh, that couple is probably going to divorce, so addressing it quickly might also help push that along." "Indeed. It would be better for us if they moved out."
When we hung up, the family around me gave thumbs up as if to say, "Good job." It seemed this had been a long setup. Apparently, their moving into the condo was guided by our family. In this region, companies are somehow related to agriculture. And farmers keep in touch. My current family, knowing my situation as a bride who came to a farming family, had been checking on my sister and parents, who had treated me poorly. They had circulated information about the condo being available on the second floor, used and cheap. Knowing Maya would jump at the word condo.
"Well, we didn't know when we'd meet again,"
Neil explained to me.
"So, you were planning to execute this if we met again?"
"That's the idea," the family said, smiling warmly at me. The dogs that had come to the veranda also barked in agreement. Oh, these people. I just had to laugh. Later on, I heard from Sally that Maya was officially getting divorced.
"It was a mess,"
Sally reported to me with a hearty laugh. It turns out Sally and her husband are now running the family home that Maya left when she got married. The wedding they had, influenced by those two, significantly tarnished our parents' reputation. Sally took advantage of that situation, apologizing for our no-good parents to win over the community and took control of the household. Then Maya, following her affair and subsequent divorce, had the audacity to try and come back.
No way she's coming back into this house. After all the effort to get our parents in line, we can't just let a parasite back in.
Sally maintained a firm stance publicly.
Attitude really is everything, huh? So, what happened to Maya? I don't know. She should pay her own alimony, right? Oh, and apparently, Maya left her last job because she couldn't do the work and there were some inappropriate relationships.
That was news to me.
And after being a stay-at-home wife with a gap in her resume, plus now a divorce due to an affair? Geez, what kind of job can she even get? Maybe something in the night industry? Though, that might actually suit her.
Sally. But Mike had said the same thing.
You know, Mary, I used to get so irritated watching her. But really, with parents and a sister like that, it was inevitable.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I learned from them what not to do early on. Now, I've got control of the household.
That made sense to me.
You can relax from now on. Forget about us and just enjoy being pampered and happy over there.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll come visit you next time.
Okay, I'll be waiting. Almost a year later. As promised, though a bit delayed, Sally visited our home.
Congratulations on the third child, sis.
Yes, since then, I had given birth to a third child. Today was a celebration for that.
Thank you. I heard you're expecting your second?
Yep.
We're stopping at 2, but are you planning to have more?
Yeah.
Here, kids can grow up without any bias, freely.
Indeed, the older kids were taking care of the younger ones, and the younger ones were always looking for something they could do. I was a little worried I might raise them like my parents did. But with this place and this family, I believed we could be happy without those concerns. That's what I thought. My name is Allie Smith, I'm 30 years old. My husband, Tom, is a 33-year-old office worker. I experienced stage 0 breast cancer 8 years ago. And now, the breast cancer is back.
Sis, you're finally getting discharged tomorrow, huh?
I've had a recurrence of breast cancer and am currently hospitalized after undergoing a mastectomy of my left breast.
Sis?
It's really a shock to lose a breast as a woman. I was prepared, but still. The surgery was successful, but my heart is still heavy. Then, my husband, Tom, came in triumphantly. My husband, who suddenly tells me he wants a divorce while I'm hospitalized for breast cancer.
I'm going to remarry because my lover is pregnant. Move back to your parents' house once you're done with the surgery. The apartment we're living in is mine.
I laughed at Tom, who knew nothing, idiot. You know nothing, do you? I revealed a certain truth to him. Then, he went crazy, then my whole plan is ruined. What's going to happen now? There have been various things leading up to this.
Thank you for everything today.
No, thank you. How about it? Did you find any good places? I have another viewing tomorrow, but my heart is set on the last property we saw. I was working at my father's real estate agency at the time. I was assigned to handle Tom when he came looking for a place. That concludes our explanation. Please read the contract thoroughly, and if you're satisfied, sign it and stamp it. This. Saying that, Tom handed me a small note. I don't want us to stop seeing each other after today. When I got home and opened the note, it contained Tom's email address and phone number. Honestly, I could have gotten that information from the documents, but that would be a breach of privacy. I also felt sad that we wouldn't see each other again. Why can't we date? You hate me, don't you? If you tell me what's wrong, I'll try to fix it. After all, we've already been on what feels like 5 dates. I can't accept that we can't date. It's not like that. I don't dislike Tom at all. In fact, I have a good feeling about her. Then, I've decided not to marry anyone. Why? Did you commit a crime? Or if you're just looking for an excuse to reject me, I don't mind if you just turn me down clearly.
It's not that. I think you wouldn't be happy if you married me. If you're going to dodge the issue with such vague words, then forget it.
Tom turned his back in anger. This is fine, this is the right choice. Even so, I can't lie to my own feelings.
Tom!
When I called out, Tom turned around. He looked like he was hoping I would call him back. He probably wanted a proper explanation. I had breast cancer 3 years ago. There's a high chance it could come back. That's why I might not be able to look after you for the rest of my life. Having a sick person in the family is the hardest on the family members. I don't want to put you through that. Also, due to chemotherapy, my ovarian function has declined, and it's been said it would be difficult for me to have children. I think it's rare to find a woman who brings so little to a marriage. That's why I can't date you. It's because I like you. I might not be able to make Allie happy. But if I marry you, I'll be happy. I like you, no matter what. What does it matter if you're sick, or if we don't have children? My happiness is walking through life together with you. I don't wish for anything else. Let's trust in Tom's broad-mindedness and kindness. With such a strong declaration, he'll surely stay unshaken, no matter what happens. Did you go to the hospital? When he came home from work, the first thing Tom asked was that. For over a month, I've had many days when I felt unwell. Yeah, I went for a checkup. It's breast cancer. It's been 8 years since the last time, but now it's stage 2. I have to have surgery on my breast.
Is that so? We've been married for 5 years, so I thought maybe it wouldn't come back, but you never know. Surgery means it can be cured, right? Then let's look on the bright side, let's be positive.
I was worried about how Tom would react, but I was relieved that he took it more brightly than expected. So, you're going to be hospitalized, huh? When? I'll be hospitalized a week from now, and the stay is for 10 days. Then maybe I should make lunch for you every day. Hospital food is bland and not very tasty, right? I wouldn't know since I've never been hospitalized. Tom was good at cooking. I'm technically a stay-at-home wife, but on days when Tom comes home early, he cooks dinner.
That's it! I'll make lunch for both of us and we can eat together during the hospital's dinner time. I'm gonna visit every day.
Tom's cheerfulness was a saving grace.
The surgery went well.
When I woke up, my sister Kelly was there for me. Since our parents couldn't take time off work, she came in their place. Kelly, what about your job? I was relieved to hear my voice come out clearly. I had no memory after being anesthetized, and the surgery was already over. Anesthesia is amazing, I realized again.
I'm what you'd call a freeloader, living off my parents' money at home, a royal freeloader.
Kelly was trying to turn everything into a joke.
I'll come every day to keep you company and kill time. Write down a list of any magazines or books you want. Nights in the hospital are long, and it's tough to pass the time. Sure, there's always a TV now, but smartphones are banned and it's boring.
The anesthesia had worn off, and my head was starting to clear up. It had been a long time since Kelly and I had such a long conversation.
Hey, Allie, you're looking good. Kelly came too, huh? That must be reassuring for you.
Tom also stopped by after work, but he didn't bring the lunch I was secretly hoping for. He stayed for about 10 minutes, maybe.
It seems like Allie is in good spirits, and you sisters have a lot to catch up on after so long. So, I'll leave you to it.
What? Tom left shortly after arriving. I'm gonna go buy something to drink. What would you like, sis? Kelly quickly changed the subject. I still couldn't move much. Could you get me some tea, please? I sent Kelly off with that request, but she didn't return for nearly an hour. I started to get worried. Kelly came back, but without any drinks. Her face was slightly pale. "You were gone for a while. Did you go to the cafeteria and eat something?" "What? What's with the scared look? Did you see a ghost or something?" "I just can't keep it to myself." "What are you talking about?" "Tom is cheating." "What?" "I went down to the first floor to buy a drink. That's when I saw Tom with a young woman, talking in front of the parking lot. When I was listening to their conversation, it sounded like they were dating." "No way. Are you sure you didn't mistake someone else for him?" "I wish that were the case. I recorded it on impulse." "Want to listen?" My feelings were torn between not wanting to hear it and needing to know. Kelly didn't wait for my response and started playing the recording. "When is your wife getting discharged?" "I was told she'd be in the hospital for 10 days. Then, let me go to your house during that time and take care of everything. I want to look after you." "Huh, Sarah, you're quite domestic. You don't look the part though."
"Stop it. What's that supposed to mean?" "But, making you happy is what makes me happiest. Ever since I joined the company, I've had feelings for you. The shock when I found out she was married was unbearable. It makes me happy just to hear you say that, even though I'm 10 years older."
I have a thing for older men. The moment I saw you when I first joined the company, I knew she was the one. But, it seems like I met you in the wrong order. If it had been before you met your wife, you would have chosen me, right?
Of course. I've realized since dating you, Sarah, that I prefer someone healthy. Allie was always tired and bedridden even before her recurrence was discovered. A marriage without communication is just boring. I wanted to cherish our mealtime conversations, but in the end, I was cooking and eating alone.
They say conversation is the best spice. What would happen if she knew I was here? Would she get jealous? I wonder. Allie is so oblivious, I doubt she suspects I have a lover at all. It doesn't matter if she finds out, actually. But, there's something that makes it necessary for her to know. Tom's mind must be racing with what Sarah's insinuating.
I'm pregnant. What?
Remember, we went to a hotel after that drinking party? Oh, when I was completely drunk. It's from that night. Can you even be sure? We've been together since then. Women just know these things. You're going to divorce your wife and marry me, right? There was a moment of silence. What answer would Tom give? Maybe the time has come. I'll divorce Allie. Above all, I'm happy that we're having a child. I'm grateful you got pregnant. At this point, I stopped her. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm sorry, you didn't want to hear this. It's not your fault, Kelly. Thanks, actually. Without this, I might never have realized. I lost all respect for Tom on the day of my surgery. Moreover, bringing his mistress to the hospital where his wife is admitted. Sis, are you really clueless about this woman Tom is with? From the conversation, it's clear she's from Tom's company. Haven't you faced any harassment until now? I have absolutely no clue. But it's only a matter of time before the woman who's pregnant demands a divorce, right? Whether she's really pregnant is another matter. It's like the ultimate weapon for a mistress who wants her lover to leave his wife. Tom, too, would say he's divorcing because of the situation with his mistress. That's a typical line from men who cheat. Maybe we should talk about it once? As I was lost for words, Kelly said, "Sis, lend me the keys to your apartment. I'm going to install a recorder there right now. The more evidence we have, the better it'll be for the divorce court." Kelly was already talking as if my divorce from Tom was a done deal. I didn't want to hurt myself anymore, but I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to hear Tom's true feelings. I handed Kelly the keys to my apartment. The next day, Tom came to visit me after work. Having heard their conversation the day before, I couldn't look him straight in the eye. "Is there anything you need?" If there's anything you want me to bring, just request it. Would he go back to our home, where his mistress is, after this? How can he maintain such an unchanged smile, keeping pregnancy and divorce a secret? This is my suggestion. Why don't you stay at your parents' place for a while after you're discharged? I know Kelly has been updating me about your condition, but it would be safer, right? Imagining his mistress confidently staying in my apartment made me feel nauseous. He must be trying to distance himself from me. You look pale today. Are you feeling ill? Want something to drink? Is there anything in the fridge? Hearing these kind words, it's hard to believe he's really cheating. I knew it was camouflage not to get caught, but I still didn't want to believe it. The image of Tom, always a gentleman in front of me, was getting distorted. Tom, aren't you inconvenienced? I decided to probe him. You are good at cooking but not so good at tidying up, right? Clothes left where they're taken off, things left open. Isn't our house turning into a mess? Once I'm discharged, cleaning will be the first order of business. No, it's okay, Allie. You don't need to worry about that. I'll come again tomorrow. Tom left after less than 10 minutes that day. Then, for a week, Tom didn't come to visit me. Even though my discharge was approaching. I thought it might be time to retrieve the recorder. Do you want to listen, sis? I was scared, but knew it was better to face reality. The partner hints at pregnancy and divorce. I've edited it down to just the concerning conversations. Okay? Hey, after you divorce your wife, are we going to live in this room? It's a pretty nice condo, spacious and must have been expensive. Are you still paying the mortgage? This place has been Allie's since before we got married. Wow, is your wife some rich heiress or something? Allie's dad runs a real estate business and owns several properties. This condo was a gift from her father. But no matter how nice the house is, I don't want to live in a house where you lived together. Let's sell this condo and use the money to build our love nest. We can buy stylish furniture and create a comfortable environment. Just thinking about it excites me. Moving means we'll have to ask someone for help, right? I can't lift heavy things since I'm pregnant. But are you sure? I've never checked if I can sell this place. Don't be so pessimistic. If you've been married for 5 years, it becomes joint property, right? Even if you split it with the wife, it would still sell for a lot. This prime location condo must have been worth millions. This part was about the condo Allie lives in. What comes next might be even more upsetting. What more could they possibly talk about? Moreover, this conversation took place in my home. Isn't this just encouraging Sarah, the mistress? Why do you need so much money? Can't it wait until after you sell the condo? It's not like you need to buy anything right away. You don't understand women at all, Tom. That's why you're not popular. Wouldn't you be happier if I always looked beautiful? Look. I have appointments at the beauty salon and nail salon this week, and there are clothes I want to buy. Why are you acting like you don't have money? You don't need to pay the mortgage, right? You should have more disposable income than most. Well, there are expenses. Right, you spend it on your car? I don't quite get it, but you're customizing it, right? I bought an old car and am customizing it to my liking. Tinkering with cars and bikes is my hobby. So, you're not going to buy it for me? You already have plenty of bags, don't you? This is the new collection. I hate the thought of being the only one behind. Even so, didn't I just buy you a watch last month? To date a younger woman, you need money. Don't you understand that? All right. Sarah, you really know how to ask for things. I'll stop here. You probably don't want to hear any more lovey-dovey stuff. I had never heard Tom sound so smitten. Is this the real Tom? Next, there's a recording of Sarah talking on the phone inside the house. You'll see her true colors. She lived in a surprisingly spacious condo, Tom. Not exactly a gold mine, but selling the condo could bring in a good price. even if I got half, that's like $1 million. What? Pregnant? That's obviously a lie. Who would willingly have a child with a man 10 years older? Just say I had a miscarriage at the right time, most men believe that. He's totally focused on me, so I'll use him as much as I can. You know, my plain office worker persona is just for show. I'm testing how many old men I can charm at the company. Of course, it's all for my boyfriend's sake. What? Spending money elsewhere? Of course, I am. At 23, worth of being office worker needs to be upgraded. I'm gathering designer goods now to elevate myself. Kelly stopped the recording there. I was speechless. Sis, it's better to act fast. First, make sure the condo is secured in a way that you don't lose out. We can't let this outrageous mistress have her way. And on this day, just before my discharge, my husband said, I'm remarrying because my mistress is pregnant. Move back to your parents' house after your surgery. Next to him stood Sarah, the mistress whose voice I had only heard. The condo we're living in is mine, he claimed. Idiot. You know nothing, do you? The one leaving will be you. That condo has been our joint property for the past 5 years we've lived there. I don't want all of it, just split it. What are you talking about? Are you stupid? Tom hasn't paid a cent for that condo. If you say you've been paying a loan for 5 years, maybe your claim could stand. But that condo was a gift from my father. And I lived there before we got married. It was given to me by my father. That makes it an exception to joint property. You don't even know this simple fact and just going along with what that woman says. Then what am I supposed to do now? Tom panicked. The condo is already being prepared for sale. Tom has no right to live there. If he enters without permission, he'll be arrested for trespassing. Thinking everything will go your way is a huge mistake. So, you knew about me and Sarah? I doubt the nerve of a man who can live normally with his mistress in the house while his wife is hospitalized for breast cancer. Wait, Tom, that's not what we agreed on. Sarah didn't expect things to turn out this way. Still so naive. If the condo can't be sold, how will you get the money? There's a child on the way. No house, no money, that's fraud. Your pregnancy is a lie, right? The ultimate weapon to catch a man? It didn't have to be Tom. If you're going to trick someone, at least choose someone high up in the company. What's the point in deceiving Tom? If you're going to do sugar dating, aim higher. I fought back just as hard. I've been fighting a disease. Grateful for ditching such petty lies and greed. It's pathetic to be a sore loser, isn't it? It must hurt to have your husband stolen by a younger woman. But isn't it just natural? Neglecting your husband because you're not feeling well leads to this outcome. You haven't been meeting his needs at night, have you? Then, isn't it understandable that he'd cheat? What benefit did he get from marrying you? Can't have children, and never know when you'll fall ill again. Should he live only for you? Of course, he'll say sweet things when you get married. Those words from Tom weren't lies at that time. But as time passes, it's impossible to stay at the same temperature. Please let him go. Sarah wasn't being defiant, rather she was speaking on Tom's behalf. It could make one mistakenly think Sarah genuinely loves Tom. So, Sarah, you're gonna stay with me, right? Even if it means starting in a small apartment with the 3 of us, including the baby in your belly. That's what you mean, right? Huh? What are you misunderstanding? I was just passing along what you have been complaining about to your wife. After all, you're worthless to me now. Might as well spill everything and clear the air. What about the money, then? Tom, even at this point, without any concern for his wife's health, brought up money. He must be really desperate for money. I don't care about that. It was Tom's goodwill, wasn't it? That's because you said we'd get half from selling the condo, anticipating a lot of money coming in. We even had a real estate agent confirm it could sell for $2 million. So I believed that. I was shocked to hear how far the conversation had gone. They wanted to sell the condo at any cost to cash in. Don't expect any sense from a 23-year-old woman. Everything I said was a shot in the dark.
Please! Allie, can you lend me the money from selling the condo?
Suddenly, I became the target. Tom looked as if he was about to kneel, completely cornered.
After doing something this terrible, you have the nerve to ask now. When I was down with a recurrence of breast cancer, you were off making a mistress. I'll be filing for alimony, you know. Good for you, Sarah is pregnant. You wanted kids, right? Well, it's a fantasy pregnancy anyway. But, looking at things now, it seems you and Sarah are done for, aren't you okay? After all, Sarah has a younger, more handsome boyfriend.
Tom's complexion changed. Sarah, really? His voice became sugary when addressing Sarah, which was frankly creepy. As if he believed he was getting younger.
Who knows, but that's not your concern, is it?
Then, at least pay me back the money, that's all I ask. Who knows what will happen? Sarah, you have all these expensive brands, but did you really need to go into debt to buy them? Did you know I was made a guarantor for your debts? I was astounded by his foolishness. Didn't he understand that under no circumstances should one become a guarantor for debts? Was he that blinded by Sarah?
Anyway, I'm moving out of the condo today. Tom, you better start looking for a new place soon.
We were going to live together, weren't we?
Have I not been clear? I find no attraction in a penniless Tom.
Sarah left the hospital room after saying that. Where did her confident face from when she arrived at the hospital go? Tom was left in a daze. I don't know how much debt Sarah racked up, but it's clear she won't be paying it herself. That's why Tom is stunned.
We're getting a divorce. And I'll be filing for alimony. People who succumb to temptation and pleasure once will do it again.
I pushed Tom away without a shred of sympathy. But, I do want to thank you for marrying me. For choosing to marry a woman who might not be able to have children, who had a risk of breast cancer recurrence. I needed to say that. Your parents came to visit yesterday, didn't they? Ah, Kelly, you were out then. I had returned to my parents' home after being discharged. The condo found a buyer, and my father plans to give me another one. It's good to have a wealthy real estate agent as a father. See, Tom ends up penniless and kicked out. But that doesn't excuse what I've been through. I involved a lawyer for the alimony, and suddenly Tom's parents came. They paid the alimony in full on behalf of Tom. They just kept apologizing. Isn't Tom ashamed to make his parents do such a thing? It's really appalling. Thinking back on yesterday's scene, it pains my heart too. So, what happened between Tom and that mistress, Sarah? They're done for. Sarah was only after the money from selling the condo. She wouldn't glance at a penniless Tom. After all, Tom's company is full of middle-aged men. Sarah targeted the company from the start. They weren't planning to hire female employees, but Sarah forcefully attended an interview, charmed the interviewer, and got specially hired. Her ability to manipulate older men at her young age is something else. Well, in 3 or 4 years, her youth won't sell anymore. Maybe she'll marry that boyfriend of hers, what was it, Pippi? In the end, things went exactly as Sarah wanted. She squeezed everything she could out of Tom, even making him a guarantor for her debts, a total victory. Now, Tom is running from debt collectors. There have been collection calls at his work, and he's even been ambushed outside, leading him to quit his job. I heard this from Tom's parents yesterday. A year has passed since then. A year was enough time to heal the wounds of sorrow. At least for me.
Wow, sis, you look beautiful. You really look great in dresses, probably because you have that exotic look.
Kelly, maybe it's time for you to think about settling down too. I've had the luxury of having 2 weddings after all.
I still want to enjoy myself for a while. But I had no idea you and that nurse were together. When did that start?
He took care of me during my hospital stay and even after I started outpatient visits, always encouraging me with positive words. Being a nurse, he must have faced the end of life before. Yet he said he didn't want to lose me. Why did you keep it a secret? Romance between a nurse and a patient is considered taboo. So we really kept our love quiet.
I see. But I'm glad you've recovered. After such a breakup, it's great that you met someone even better. And you're pregnant too. Yes. I never thought I could get pregnant. I had resigned myself to the idea it wouldn't happen for me, so the joy was even greater. My new husband has brought so much happiness. With renewed spirits, I took my first step down the aisle.